Hello, lovely people. I'm Stella from Stella's Yarn Universe. This is part 4 of my Peacock Amigurumi tutorial. If you already watched parts 1 to 3 and crocheted along with me, welcome back. If you haven't, you can find the links to part 1 to 3 in the description box below. So start with part 1 if you want to make this peacock. So this is the last part of the tutorial. There's still much to do. We will start with making the embroidery on the front side of the train. Then we will sew both sides of the train together, so all these this embroidery will be hidden inside, and then we'll also reinforce the train with some wire, and then finally we will sew it on the body and our peacock will be complete. So now we need the yarn that we selected for the embroidery part. I'll be using the same colors that I used before. The yarn of the train is different because I ran out of it, but for the embroidery I'll be using the same. And so we start with this outer embroidery here. So if you look at these eyes of the feathers, we start with the outer color. So I'll be using this ochre color. I don't really remember what shade it is. It's the yarn is shaped as Katuna, but I wrote it in part 1 in the description box if you're interested. And it's also listed in the written pattern. So I'll cut a long piece of this ochre colored yarn. Don't make it too long because we don't want it to get tangled. And don't worry about joining new yarn. Whenever needed, we will definitely have to join more of that yarn, and we can always just hide the ends on the wrong side of our work because that will be covered later by the reverse side of the train, so it will all be hidden nicely. So don't worry about joining more yarn and making knots on the other side. So I took my yarn double for the most part, but I don't want to work with a double thread, so I left this last end here single. I just did this so that I can use a long piece of yarn and not rejoin yarn as many times, although I'll still have to do it. So now what we do, we'll embroider the eyes of the feathers on these almond shapes that we created when making the train. And so we'll work from the bottom up, side to side. So we'll focus on these 2 lower rows, embroider all the way here, then the center 2 rows all the way back, and then the upper 2 rows all the way to the other side. And so I'll be starting here on the side with this feather. And so you can see the 5 half double crochet we made here on each side. And so identifying them will help us with the embroidery. So here you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we start our embroidery in between the first and second half double crochet on this side here on the outside. So we go through here with our needle and pull our yarn all the way, almost all the way through, just leaving a long enough end to later secure and tie together. And so now we find the space. By the way, we crochet in between stitches. So we use this big yarn needle because you heard me say when embroidering the eyes that we want to use a pointy sewing needle and insert it in between the fibers so that we have more control over where the embroidery thread goes, where our stitch goes. But in this case, we don't do that. We crochet in between stitches so that the yarn goes through easily and this big yarn needle goes through easily. So it's a different kind of embroidery, I should mention before we continue. And so our next stitch goes in between the first and second half double crochet on this side, and we go through underneath the second and third half double crochet, working our way up. So now we have this first horizontal stitch done. Like if we look at it from the right side, it's horizontal. So now we repeat this one here. So we go with our needle underneath the second and third half double crochet on the right side. And now we repeat this once more, going through underneath the second and third half double crochet on the right side. I'm saying right side because if we look at it from this perspective, it's actually the right side, and we'll repeat all of this on the left side in just a bit. So now we have the fourth and fifth half double crochet. So now we go above the fifth half double crochet in the top point here of this almond shape, and we insert our needle in the center, so the center of our almond shape, and the needle exits where our yarn exits here. So if you're more comfortable with working with a shorter piece of yarn, please go ahead with that. Actually, it's probably better. I'm just a bit lazy, so I always go for a long piece of yarn when embroidering. Now the next stitch goes in the same spot, this top spot here of our almond shape, the center spot above the fifth double crochet, and now it goes through down 2 stitches to the center, so in between the third and fourth half double crochet in the center between the 2 sides. Now we go through the center spot on the top side, and now we'll stitch through to the other side, the left side, underneath the fourth and fifth half double crochet on the left side. So the yarn comes out now here in between the third and fourth half double crochet, and we repeat this once more, or actually 2 more times. Again, center spot here, it's all the time the same spot on top of our almond shape. And now one more time, going through this top spot here, and in between the third and fourth half double crochet on the left side. So now we have this top part here embroidered. And now we go again underneath the second and third half double crochet, this time on the left side. So go through here, and we do this once more. This time we repeat this horizontal stitch in between the first and second half double crochet on both sides. So now the first one is almost done. We have one stitch to go because we want to make this one double as well. And so we go again through here. Now we want to embroider this almond shape here next. So we go through the top. So if you're unsure where that is, the center top of the almond shape, if we look at it from this perspective, it might be easier. And if you're unsure where that is, you can count the half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half double crochet underneath, and then you go through this center spot. And that's the first one done, at least when it comes to this color, and this color we embroider the most with, so the other parts will go a bit quicker. And now we are doing the next one, but we started from a different side. And so here we do this triangle first. So here we go again under the next two, like the fifth and the fourth. If we count from the bottom, fifth and the fourth half double crochet, go through them. We start with the right side. And then I actually leave the second stitch, which is the same, for the end when I want to move over to the next one here. I'm not sure if this is how I did it in the written pattern. There are many ways to do it. So don't worry too much about it. And so I do this center stitch next. So I go in between the third and fourth half double crochet in the center, and again here at this top point, through this top point. And now we can move to the other side here. So in between the third and fourth half double crochet, so that's here. On the other side, again going through the top point there. That's one done. And now with the second one, we move to the left side here. So we insert our needle in the same spot, and then we bring it under the third and second half double crochet on the left side. And then we do that again from here this time, and again. As soon as my yarn is double, I just pull it out a bit. with my long and lazy yarn here. So now we do the horizontal stitch. So we are here in between the first and second half double crochet. Now we go through the in between the first and second half double crochet on the other side. And now we go through the same spot and go underneath the second and third half double crochet on the right side. So now we have this horizontal stitch double, and now we go through here again, and again. And now we only have one stitch left, the one I didn't do in the beginning, which goes here in the top center, just because here in the top we always want 5 stitches. 2 on each side and 1 in the center. And with this, I'll go over to the next almond shape, and this one again, because it's the second row from the bottom, I'm starting this one from the bottom corner like I did with the first one. So I go through here in between the first and second half double crochet on the left side. So 1 2 3 4 5, yeah, that's the right spot. So going through here, and sometimes I have knots because my yarn is very long. So that's the second one done. Now let's do one more together, and then I'll just let you go ahead with it. If you already know what to do, just skip this part. So here we have again 1 2 3 4 5 in between the first and second half double crochet. We go through here, and then we go underneath the second and third half double crochet on the right side. And we'll do this again underneath the second and third half double crochet. And again. Now we do the top here, so above the fifth half double crochet in the center and exiting at the same spot. And that's 1. And now we go underneath the 4th and 5th half double crochet in the center, making the center stitch of this triangle. Now we move to the other side underneath the 4th and 5th half double crochet. And repeat this again. And again. So now we do the 2 stitches on the side. So we go underneath the second and third half double crochet on the left side. Now I'm just going to turn this to do the second one and go through here to repeat this bottom horizontal stitch in between the first and second half double crochet on both sides. So now I'm going through the same spot here, and then the next almond shape is parallel to this one that we just embroidered. So this one we can also start from the lower left corner. So here I'll just have a look. Need to find the first and second half double crochet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so here is where this one starts. And this is the third one done, and now we'll do the fourth one exactly the same way, and then work our way to the other side in this manner, like doing this, then this, then this, and so on. So I'll meet you here once we completed the 2 lower rows. So now our lower 2 rows are done in the ochre color. I'm just going to tie the ends together because I joined a new piece of yarn here. So whenever you need to do that, you can just tie the ends together and you can cut them short if they bother you, or shorter. So now I'm going to move up so that I can embroider the next 2 rows here. So I'm moving up to this one here. So with the last stitch of this one, I'm going up. So I think these are double crochet. Yeah, in this row we have the double crochet. So we go in between the first and second double crochet like we did with the half double. It's the exact same thing. And then making the stitch to the other side in between the first and second double crochet, then going underneath the second and third one. Then doing the center stitch, moving to the other side. And now with our last stitch, we move on to this shape here. So this is a half double crochet shape here again. Again, there's no difference between the half double and double crochet shapes. We treat them the same way. Just in the end here, when we have these triple crochet shapes, these top ones. We embroider them a little differently, but we'll get there. I'll let you know once we get there. So now with the last stitch, I'm moving on to the next one, and then again, whenever it's in the row below, then we can start from the top. That makes it a bit easier. It doesn't really matter, it's just that then we don't use as much yarn here. All this will be hidden in the end anyway. It's just a little detail. You don't need to worry too much about it. So we continue this way, doing this one, then this, and so on, always alternating between the third and fourth row until we get to the other side. So you can pause the video and meet me there. So now I've done the middle 2 rows, and I already accidentally did this one when I was in the embroidery zone. And now I started with the top 2 rows with this one here. And everything is the same, just the top row. In the top row we make slightly more stitches, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So just finish this one here and going right over to this triple crochet shape here. And so most of it is the same. We make the stitch in between the first and second triple crochet, 2 of these, then going underneath the second and third on one side first. We make 2 stitches everywhere. And now the only difference is that when we make this triangle shape, we make 3 stitches on each side. So here, this one, we repeat 3 times all together. So that's 2. And now we make a third one. Next, we're going to do the middle one. So that's why I'm going through here. But on the right side, we now have 3 stitches. Now we make the center stitch, and then on the other side, we'll also make 3 stitches. So this is the center one done, and now 3 on the left side. That's 1, 2, and 1 last one. 3. So this is the only difference, that these triangles have 7 stitches instead of 5. Now we do our 2 on the other side and make, oh no, we already made this one. Okay, so now we would normally go through this one, but because this was the first one, I already did it. So now I'm going through to the next one and embroider the next one the same way. And now this one you won't have done yet, so you can go the same way, up, down in a zigzag pattern to finish this part of the embroidery. So you can pause the video here and meet me when you completed the ochre embroidery. So the first part of our embroidery is done, and now we'll continue with the blue yarn. And so I'll start here again with the 2 lower rows, and I'll work my way up the same way. So this is a little more straightforward. We start here in the corner. So try to make the stitches within these ochre or orange stitches. So here we just make 4 vertical stitches within these ochre or orange stitches, 2 on each side. So we go with our needle under the second and third half double crochet. Now it's actually easier to say just within these 2 stitches, wherever you still see green. That's what we're going to cover now with the blue stitches. So we make 2 stitches on this side. With the second one, I'm already going to bring my needle across to the other side. Just try to keep it within these outer orange or ochre stitches. It's the same spot that we're going through, but still you can kind of control and make sure that the stitches go inside of the ochre or orange ones. So that's the second one done. Now 2 on the other side. Going through here. So this is what I mean, trying to make sure that we don't go in between them, but above both of these stitches. That's the third one, so 1 more to go. Now with the next stitch, I'm going through to the next one, right here, through to the upper left corner. And that's it. That's the first one done. And we just continue this now with all of these eyes. So you can pause the video here and you can meet me for the last row, because the last row is again a bit different. We make 3 stitches on each side, so a total of 6, but we can do that together once we completed all the other rows. So now I reached the top 2 rows. I just want to show you real quickly how to embroider the top row. The second row from the top here, we embroider as we did the rest with 4 of these vertical stitches. So I'm just finishing this one and bring my needle through here to the next top row eye. So here we have our usual 4 stitches, and the only difference is here in the top row we make 6 stitches, so 3 on each side. So this is 1, 2, and with the third one, bringing my needle here to the other side, so to the this triple crochet on the right side. And this is 3. And now we have 3 stitches on this side as well. And they don't turn out very precise, the stitches, especially here in this top row, so you can kind of guide where the stitch goes just to make sure that they are next to each other. You can hold your finger on it, your thumb on it, if that helps to put the stitches in a row next to each other. And so now we can make the last one and go through to the upper left corner of this next one here. And that's it, that's our 6 stitches done. And here in the second row we have our regular 4 stitches again. So you can pause the video and join me for the third and last part of the embroidery when we use the turquoise or aquamarine yarn. So now we can do the third and last part of our embroidery. As you can see, I already started and I'm using this aquamarine color, but of course feel free to use any color you like. What we're doing with this is we frame our blue squares that we have, and then we also make a little stitch here in the center. And the process is the same for the whole train, so I'm just going to show you with one example what we're doing. So I just finished this one, and so I'm now moving on to the next one, starting in one corner. Again, it doesn't really matter which one. So I'm starting with one stitch here on the left side that goes in between this golden ochre part and the blue part. And now from the other side, I'm trying to find the center spot in the bottom here, so on the bottom side. So I want 2 of the blue stitches on each side, more or less. Then I go through the corner here again. Now I'm trying to find the center stitch again in between blue stitches, so with 2 blue stitches on each side, but this time I want to be in the center of the eye of the peacock feather. And then I'm going through this center point on the bottom side again. So that marks the little stitch in the center. Now I'm going to the lower right corner and again through the center spot on the bottom side. So this is how it looks now. Now I'm going through the upper right corner and the lower right corner to make another long stitch on the other side. And now we have the top stitch left, so I'm going through the upper corner on the right side and then through the upper corner on the left side. And that's it. That's what we're doing with the whole train here on the upper row. The only difference is that we have 3 blue stitches on each side, but other than that it's the same thing. So now I'm moving again in a zigzag pattern. Of course, you can also do each row individually, whatever you prefer. And so you can pause the video here and hit play once you completed the embroidery, and then we'll go ahead and do the next part together. So our embroidery is done now. And so the next step is sewing the front side and the reverse side of the train together. So for this, we will need our stitch markers, 4 stitch markers, and our yarn needle. And so just turn the front side of the train with the wrong side up. You can see my lovely mess here with all these yarn ends. And now we need the reverse side of the train, and we place it with the wrong side, which is this one, wrong side down on the front side of the train. So they should more or less line up with the top row here with our triple crochet and picots peeking out, and on the bottom side we have the lowest, the bottom 5 slip stitches peek out. So don't worry if it doesn't align perfectly. We can pull it a bit, stretch it a bit to make it align, and actually it's not a bad thing if now the front side is a bit wider. Maybe it has expanded a bit because of the embroidery that we did. That might have caused the whole work to become a bit wider than the reverse side, but that's okay. It's better to have this side bigger because then the seam is going to turn more toward the back, if you know what I mean. So now we can pin the corners together. So this upper stitch here, this triple crochet stitch, should align with the upper triple crochet stitch on the front side, which is this one here. So we don't count these 4 triple crochet that we made with the picot, and then 4 on the other side. That's supposed to be peeking out. Only this one here, this should connect with the top stitch of the reverse side, so we can use a stitch marker to pin these 2 stitches together. And then on the lower corner, what we can do is on the front side of the train we count 6 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 6th stitch should align with the first stitch. Oh, let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one here should align with the first stitch of the reverse side of the train. So I'm going to go through here and close the stitch marker. So now this should match up nicely. So now we can do the other side. And here again, the top stitch, in this case it's the base of the, it's the base of these 3 chains, should align with this one here, not counting, no, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, this one, not counting these 4 triple crochet, but the 5th one, which is the top one here, if we don't count this frill. And then on the bottom corner again we can count 6 stitches of the front side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going through from the other side, and this one should align with the first stitch of the reverse side. So now this one also lines up nicely. And so now we have plenty of yarn ends to work with. This one here on the bottom corner of the front side of the train, this one we can leave for later to attach the train to the body. So we leave this one. And so we can start with sewing together the sides. And so I'm starting with this yarn end that comes from the reverse side of the train to sew this side together. And so I'm using my yarn needle for that. And so now I just go through the 2 stitches that I have the stitch marker in, and bring this yarn end through. And now I just work my way down to sew both sides together. So now I'm going 1 stitch below, and on this side we don't have actual stitches. We have the base chains that we started with, and on this side we have actual stitches, but you can tell which one counts as a stitch by these loops that you can see here. So going through these 2, we can get rid of the stitch marker now, and then we'll find the next 2. And the next 2, and that's how we sew this side together all the way to the other side. So you can pause the video here and hit play once you reach this other stitch marker. So now I reached the other stitch marker. So there's just 1 more stitch to go. I might have to remove that in order to get through here. And that's it. So this side is sewn together now. And here we can actually, well, you can either weave in the yarn end or you can make a knot. I'll make another one, and then we can hide this yarn end inside because it's going to be hidden this way. I'll just cut this a little bit shorter, and then it can be hidden inside. So now we can go ahead and sew the other side together. So here we have the yarn end from the bottom side. So this way, this time we'll sew our way up to the upper corner. So this is the same thing, just sewing the corresponding 2 stitches together. All the way up to the other stitch marker. So once again, you can pause the video and meet me there at the other stitch marker. Now this side is done as well. I just have one more stitch to go here where we have the stitch marker. And so now, if you still have a long enough yarn end here, then you can actually continue with this upper side here. If it's not enough, we still have this other yarn end here that we can use to work away from the other side. But if you still have a bit like me, you can just continue from here. So before, we just want to make sure that everything is aligned nicely. And so you can see these wavy patterns here. And so we want them to align with the with these tips here. So as you can see, here we have the waves, and then they lead here to, they kind of extend here into this tip. And so we can just put in a few stitch markers just to make sure we sew it on correctly. So anywhere at these points here in between these two, these should align with this lower point. So that's where we can place them. I think that's probably the easiest way. I'll put one here. Maybe I put one here, and then we can move them further to the other side as we sew this top together. Well, maybe we move this one over here. Just in case. So at least this side is now aligned nicely. And so it's okay if a little bit of this ochre, orange, golden color peeks through from the back. That's normal. So don't worry about that. We'll actually somehow sew around it. And so now with this yarn end on our needle, we count to the 5th of these triple crochet. So here we have these 4 that we made in the end, and then the 5th one is the actual last triple crochet. So I'm just catching a loop in there on the right side there, And then I go through the next stitch here on my reverse side of the train on the upper edge. And then I try and catch another loop closer to the center, again in the same triple crochet, and go through the next stitch here. And now when we reach this embroidery part, we can just bring our needle through to the other side. And here we just need to pay attention that these two slip stitch rows should be aligned with this lower point here. And here we can again pick up a loop from this triple crochet and then go through the, yeah, I think that's also a triple crochet. So we picked up two loops on both of these triple crochet that are opposite each other, and we do that again, moving a little further this time. And then we can go through here, through this point where we placed the stitch markers, further ahead. Always finding two aligning loops on opposite sides. And now we can move on to the next triple crochet, picking up a loop from there and here. Let's do one more, actually doing 3 on each side. Makes it more secure, so that I think that's what I did in the written pattern. And then once we did these, we go through here, through the embroidery, just to get to the other side. And then pick up a loop on here and on there and here. Again, I'm going to do 3 little stitches before we get to the stitch marker. That's 2. There we go. And 3. And I'm not touching these 4 triple crochet here on top. Now these in between, this in between spot, and move on to the next triple crochet. And so this way we sew the whole upper side together. So I'll let you go ahead with that. And if you run out of yarn end, then you have another one here that you can use to work your way from the other side. And once this top is sewn together, we can reinforce the train of feathers with craft wire. So now we'll need a 60 centimeter or 24-inch long piece of craft wire. The one I'm using is 1 millimeter thick. And so we're going to find the center here, which should be the 7th of these picot tips. So we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the center one. So we're going to weave this wire through here and then also through the next 2 on each side. And so you may be able to see these gaps here in between rows, these straight lines, and that's where we are going to weave the wire through. I hope you can see that, and I hope the sun coming in doesn't bother you. So here on top it's quite easy to weave the wire through. I'm just trying to move the stitches around it so that it can go through. My wire is a bit flimsy, so that makes it a little bit tricky. If yours is sturdier, it might hopefully be easier. And don't worry about picking up every single stitch because that's just very difficult. As long as it's woven through, more or less, it should be fine. You can also use some pliers to get it through. When it gets stuck, that might help to move it along. So this is how we move it through, all the way down here. So this should be good enough. Just pulling this halfway through now, because this is the center. And so now I'm going to use the other end to weave it through here, through this next, aligning with this next picot tip here. So going through here. Again, the top is quite easy, and then as we move downward, it can get a little tricky. And here in between the slip stitch rows is really a bit difficult, so don't worry about catching every single stitch here. So now I'm pulling this one through just to about here. So we have this little bow here. And so now I'm going to use the same wire end to go up through here. So let's see, I hope this will work out okay. It's a little bit trickier to start here with the slip stitches that are a bit tighter. So now I finally cut this through. So I'm just pulling it up to this point, and I'll leave this end here. Once we're done, we can use it to connect the two ends. But first I'm going to use the other end again to go up in between these two rows. If you have pliers, they might come in handy because you can pull the wire bit by bit through the stitches. And there we go. So now I'm gonna pull this one through all the way to this point, and now I'm going to weave the rest of the wire through here. Oh, actually I can pull it more because a little bit is peeking out here now. Also, let's just measure and make sure I have enough. Yeah, that should be all right. I'm just going to push this one through a little bit here. And pull that up. So that's looking good. So this one's aligning here with the next peak. And that's it. So now I'm going to pull this one through. Actually, now it turns out I have quite a bit left over here. So I'm going to pull it through up to this point. Now I'm going to fold this one over to secure it. And now I'm just feeding this part back through here so that we have a longer end here that we can kind of tie together with these loops to secure it. Oh, and here we have a yarn end showing through. There we go. So this was quite tricky. I'm just weaving this one through these loops and then just going back as far as it goes, and then I'll just wrap this around here and secure it somewhere somehow so that it's not going to hurt me or anyone. So this should now support the feathers nicely. So now we can finally sew the train of feathers on the body of our peacock, and for this we'll need some pins and our peacock. And so this part here, you can see that it's a bit stretchy, and so we want to use make use of this flexibility so that we can shape this part around the body of the peacock. So you may want to stretch it a bit and fold it up, and then we can pin it in place. So these lower corners, they go quite far to the bottom side of the belly. I'm just going to try this and then we'll see how it looks. So we want to cover these wings here. They're going to be visible from the back, but not from the front. And so just putting in some pins. Another one here to make sure the wing is covered. And here. And then we can have a look and see if it's symmetrical. I'll put one pin here in the top. And then one more on each side. So it's normal that there's quite a lot of tension now here on these sides. And later we actually want the feathers to go up like this. But for now, I just leave them as they are so that we can sew this front part on. So we will use the long yarn end to sew the front part on, and then we will also sew on the back. So now we need our long yarn end and our yarn needle, and before we start sewing, we just want to check and make sure that everything's centered. So here the magic ring actually marks the center. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds on this side, and on the other side it looks less. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so that's because I moved the wing further to the front. So I'm just going to move this side a little further to the front as well to balance it out a bit. And then I just want to make sure that these two are aligned. So actually this one can go a bit higher so that they're on the same level. So I'm just going to move everything a little further up. And this side should be okay. So we can start sewing now. And so I'll just find a loop close to the train of feathers, close to this edge of the train. Pull that through and then go through the train from the inside out. And then through the next stitch, or it's not really a stitch, it's kind of in between rows, but through the next spot from the outside in. And then I'm picking up a loop close to the stitch on the body. So I'm trying to hide the seam as much as possible. So now I'm going again through the train from the inside out. And then from the outside in through the next spot. And picking up the next loop on the hook, any loop that's closed. And again from the inside out. And from the outside in. And picking up a loop on the body. So this way I'm sewing all around to sew the front side on the body. So you can pause the video here and do the same, and then you can meet me once you reached this pin here on the other side. So the front side here is almost sewn on. There's just a little bit to go with this last stitch, and then I'm going right through to the back. And so I'm going through here, actually right here above the brown wing. And so putting that through, so we want that to be pulled quite tightly. And so here we now start sewing on the reverse side of the train. So I'm doing the same here, just that I'm going through the edge here of the reverse side of the train. So going through from the inside out, then through the next spot, next stitch from the outside in, and then picking up a loop on the body that's close to it. And you can also use pins here if that helps. For me, I think they would just pop out because there's quite a bit of tension on it. So after a few stitches, I just pause and make sure that everything is going in the right place. Here, where we have these half double crochet ends along the edge, we can actually make bigger stitches to kind of draw everything together a bit, if that makes sense. And making a small stitch on the body. So we make very small stitches on the body and bigger stitches on the train. So maybe you could see now that everything got drawn together to fit here on the back of the peacock. And here again, I want to find a loop that's very close to the previous one. And then we always pull the yarn quite tightly. So now we can actually check, we're almost at the center. So we want to make sure that the center line aligns with the center of the back. So here I'm making again quite a big stitch through the edge of the train to draw together this these two half double crochet rows here. And picking up a loop quite close to the previous one on the body. So now you can see it's drawing together. And you can just work around the wire, that shouldn't be a problem. So now we reached the center point of the train. And here we also more or less at the center of the back, so that worked out nicely. Here we have a bigger stitch again where we have the half double crochet rows at the edge. And now we almost reached the other side. A few more stitches. One more through the body. With this one I'm going a bit more forward. And that's it. So now we can make a knot. And then we can weave in the yarn end. So now that the yarn end is woven in, I'm just going to cut it short. And so now we only have a few things left to do to finish our peacock. So this is how it looks from the front. We still have to do the crest here. I'm starting with the legs though, so now it's time to figure out how the legs should be positioned so that it can stand, hopefully. And so like this will probably be okay. So from here we can see which direction the toes point. So I'm just gonna leave it in this position and now put a drop of glue, or a few drops maybe, just to be sure, around the base of the legs to prevent the legs from moving. Just making sure it goes everywhere. Now bringing them back into position, and now I'm just leaving this to dry. So just give it plenty of time to completely dry before moving the peacock and testing if it can stand. So after letting the glue dry for about half an hour, I just tried to see if my peacock can stand, and it's a bit wobbly, like the glue is not quite enough, and it doesn't stand as securely as my other peacock. And I think that's just because the legs turned out much better with this one. That's always the case when I make something off camera. It's much easier and tends to turn out better. So yours may be the same as this one, so you can skip this part if that's the case. But if your peacock also has slightly wobbly legs still, I just came up with hopefully another solution. So we can actually wrap some of the blue yarn around the base of the legs to hopefully make them more stable. And so we need more glue for that. Anyway, I was quite clumsy with the glue, so it will look nicer when this glue here is covered with yarn. So I'm just gonna apply some more here at the base and also going up the leg a bit. And so now I'm just gonna wrap the yarn around the base of the leg. So this is probably enough. I do another round towards the base of the leg. And that's it. I'm gonna cut it later once it's dry. So this is how it looks now. And I'm gonna do the same on the other side. I'm just using the same yarn because we can cut it later. Just making sure that it really sticks to the base here. And this is how it looks. So I'll leave this to dry now for half an hour or so. Okay, so now the glue had enough time to dry, and so I'm just going to cut the yarn here as close to the legs as possible. I'm also cutting this piece between the legs. So this is how it looks. Let's see if he can stand now. Yes, that's great. So I hope this worked for you as well. If it didn't already stand before that, I'll definitely add this to the written pattern. It's very helpful. So now all that's left to do is get the crest here in shape. And so I'm just going to pull it up in the right direction. So for this, we again need some glue. And I have this pin here that I already ruined by using it for glue. And you could also use a wooden toothpick or something like that. And I'll just apply some glue to it. This should be enough. And I'm using the glue as a hair gel. So I'm just going through the fibers here. Trying to separate them and at the same time I want them to hold their shape. So that's looking much better already. I'm going to use a little bit more. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to let it dry. And once it's dry, I'm just going to cut off this fluff on top there. And so this means our peacock is complete now. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Thank you very much for crocheting along with me. Recording these videos really makes me feel as if I'm crocheting with you. So thank you so much for being here and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give the video a thumbs up and share this whole series with anyone who you think would enjoy the project as well. And if you have an Instagram or Facebook account and you will share your beautiful peacock, please tag me at Stella's Yarn Universe, because I'd love to give you a thumbs up as well. And also this way you enter in my monthly giveaway of a pattern from my shop. And so with that being said, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of my future amigurumi tutorials. Thank you so much again, and see you in the next one. Bye.